I think this is what we need. If the Bhagavad Gita would not have been so philosophical, how eager would we be eager? How eager would we be to hear about a conversation between two friends? Not much. In fact, we are not very eager to hear a conversation which is not related to us or our extended family. So this narrative that has been built up over generations is interesting, isn't it? Have you ever thought about it? That should we be grateful to our previous generations who have preserved this narrative? Over a period of time, this narrative has taken the form of something absolutely brilliant. However, when Krishna was speaking to Arjuna, Arjuna did not have um, any narrative according to which he was listening to the Bhagavad Gita. He never had a narrative. Did he have a narrative? So he's raw. And that is one of the premises of the Bhagavad Gita. That when we approach the Bhagavad Gita, especially when we do standalone verses, or one verse after the other, daily or on a weekly basis, there could be a tendency to become familiar with the subject matter. And if we do not approach it with a fresh and inquisitive mind, or let's say need, then the only message that may seem attractive is that which sounds good to our ears, or it satisfies our intelligence. So that has to be combined with the intent of practice. Assimilation or absorption is important to consider when we spend time discussing on the subject matter of the Bhagavad Gita. Because it's our time. We need full returns on it. Yes? So every other activity in our life that we do, we always think in terms of how beneficial it is going to be for us. And whenever we are a little lax, for example, a shower is good every day, isn't it? Every day at least one should have a good shower. I mean, today that can be challenged, but we accept the fact that, according to the tradition that we know of, a shower every day is good, especially in the morning after waking up, not at late at night. That is not how we know a shower to be. Most of us, right?
Yes.
How many of us have been in a shower like this and out? That has happened. So why did we take a shower? Because it's just the habit that we have. So do we get the benefit of the shower? A little bit, not much. Isn't it? So there is a verse about the Gita. Maline mochanang pungsam. It is in the Gita Mahatmya. The revered saint Adi Shankaracharya, he gave this. He glorified the Bhagavad Gita in the Gita Mahatmya. Maline mochanang pungsam jalasnanam dine dine. Sakrit Gita amritam snanam sansar Malanashanam. So in his times, there were no showers, like something. The only kind of shower they would have is when, as children, their mother would pour a bucket of water over them. So they were forced to participate in that activity, really cleanse themselves. So he says, Maline mochanam pungsam jalasnanam dine dine. Every day one takes a shower to cleanse oneself of the dirt. Malina means dirt. Mochana means to cleanse. Yes. So Maline mochanam pungsam. Pungsam means living entity. Jalasnanam, bathing in water or with water. Dine dine. Sakrit Gita Amritam Snanam. Similarly, just by bathing ourselves in the nectar of the holy message of the Bhagavad Gita, Samsara Malanashanam. Samsara Mala, every day there is some anxiety, there's some fear, there is some greed, there is some jealousy, envy, not every day. I mean, it's like in the morning you wake up and you go to your kitchen and you decide what you want to eat. Similarly, every day in the morning we have this 5, 6 different outlets, different options, and you choose one of them. Okay, today I want to be envious. Yeah. Yesterday I was troubled by anxiety. Day after, maybe I'll try out greed. So that is called as samsara mala, nashanam. These impurities, because they're called as mala, so impurities, are completely destroyed by taking one's bath in the beautiful message of the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so let us go to our verse today. Chatur vida bhajante mam. No, we have done that. Sorry, I'm just trying to go verse by verse, Sanskrit. So Krishna appears to be obsessed with, occasionally appears to be obsessed with the idea of worship. Have you noticed that? He kind of sometimes hints about worships. He kind of sometimes is very, very strong about worship. So today again he brings up the point of worship. Chaturvidha. Chaturvidha means 4 kinds. Bhajante mam. Jana. Jana, people. Bhajante mam, worship me. So 4 kinds of people worship me. So in the previous verse 15, there was the mention of the unfantastic 4. The unmagnificent 4. They are called as Dushkritina. Here the word used is Sukritina. Kriti, action. Su, good. Kritinaha, those who perform actions. Sukritinaha is those who perform good acts. Okay. So it's like Krishna is a school teacher and every day is like, today if you behave, you'll get 4 points, something like that. Janaha Sukritina. So he has a point system here. He is rewarding the people who performs certain activities that are considered to be good by calling them Sukritina. So who are the Sukritinaha? Srila Prabhupada in his purport, he says, these are the adherents of regulative principles. Who does the state consider to be good drivers on the road? those who adhere to the norms, the rules. I mean, you won't get any, best driver badges, but your life will be safe, hopefully. If someone else, has a bad day, then you also have a bad day. But typically, if everyone is adhering to the rules, then your life is safe. Whether you're safe or not, that the stock market will decide. So, adherence of regulative principles, which basically means their journey in life is safe. Where do we find the regulative principles and how do we adhere to them? So, we find them in the scriptures. And how do we adhere to those principles? By, first of all, getting knowledge about them, understanding, and regularly trying to see that it is implemented in our lives. Okay? Now, if you do not adhere to the regulative principles, there could be two causes. Either consciously you're deciding not to do it, or you forget about it. Unconsciously you're not participating in it. So if we are not able to participate in these norms given by the scriptures, which are called as the regulative principles, it affects, or its effects are seen on your morality and the morality of the society that you live in. Like if everyone feels that there should be a good neighbor, then you feel safe in the community. Because if something happens, the neighbors are there, you feel some kind of strength. But if you cannot trust your neighborhood, then you feel so insecure. So how do people trust each other? Do you think crooks can trust each other? The code among the crooks. Sometimes there's glorification of the code among the mafia code. The mafia code is my way or the highway. If you do not follow the hierarchy, then the coffin awaits you. So that's not a good neighborhood. It's actually dictatorship, authoritarian. So there's not much codes to be followed amongst criminals. The rule abiders have codes, and therefore security is generally found amongst those who abide by rules and norms. Hence, when scriptural instructions are consciously or unconsciously not applied in one's lives, then very soon one would find a tendency to give up morality and to gravitate towards a society that is immoral. It's but natural that happens. That is how the laws of physical attraction work. All right. So people who typically do this, who understand scriptures and understand its laws, are very helpful. Some kind of moral and social laws based on the scriptures is helpful. They have an inkling towards worshiping God, or they have this a slight bent towards the worship of God. So they are called as Sukritina here. So that's the word Sukritina that is being mentioned. An important consideration here is that Krishna says bhajante ma. And he says such people are sukritina. He doesn't say that people who abide by the rules of the scriptures are sukritina. He doesn't say that. That is a corollary. The statement made is those who worship me in various ways, 4 kinds of ways they worship me, they are sukritina. So those who follow the laws of morality, they understand 2 uh, options that are available. One is to do good, the other is to do that which is not good. So that which is good is called as pious, that which is not good is called as impious. So people who follow a life of piety are not being referred to here. So there's another category being understood. It's a little sublime. Because piety and impiety may be completely bereft of worshipping Krishna. It's possible. So here, worship of Krishna is the main premise. Bhajantema, according to what Krishna is saying. So chaturvidha bhajante mam jana sukritina, Arjuna. So we'll consider this word sukritina a little bit. Okay. Typically, people are interested in action if they understand the fruits of action, what is going to be the result. And if for obtaining the result, they have to perform some kind of austerity, any sacrifice, seek help, or share with others, give help, they accommodate all of these or one of these various needs to be able to achieve the result. For example, to achieve a particular result, if you have to take the help of someone else, then you seek the help. If you have to offer help to someone else, you do that. Like a child is told that please go and give this to your father. If you do that, you'll get a cake. So the child understands now that I have to go and give. So the child is ready to do that austerity, that sacrifice. So tapa, dana are words that are used in the scriptures. Basically, what it means is that those who are interested in getting the phala, the result of their activities, they may undergo tapascharya, they may do dana, they may do yajna, all of these activities. So this is one category of people because they go through all these um, different kinds of activities to reach the result. There's someone else who says, "No, Mama, I think I'll just give it. I don't want to do this just to get a cake." Yesterday I was very happy. Daddy spent time with me, so today I just want to go and give him that. That can happen. So that is another motivation. Here, the motivation is not about what will be the result of my activity and how it is important for me. Here, the motivation is the connection, the relationship, and how that relationship is rich, how it is nourishing. The relationship itself is fulfilling, and therefore, one does not need the result as a sense of fulfillment because the relationship itself is fulfilling. So, 2 ways one can perform sukritina, and therefore we find that Here, 4 kinds of people can be divided into 2 subcategories. There is the Artha. If you read 4, Artha. Artha means, if you look into your word for word translation, Artha means distressed. Okay. Then there is the Jigyasu. Jignasu is the inquisitive. Okay. Then there is the Artharthi. Artharthi is one who is looking for results, material wealth. Artharthi. And then there is the Jnani. Who's the Jnani? The seeker of the truth. Okay, 4 categories. So these 4 categories can be classified into 2 subcategories. I love technical classes. Either people completely zone out. Why are you laughing so much? Or then they're like, okay, there's so much data. Can we have a flow chart? So there's no flow chart. And please don't zone out because I've prepared a lot here. All right. Okay. So 2 categories. And these 2 categories are based on what we just described. One is those who are interested in the activities because the result is attractive. And for the other, they're interested in the activities because the relationship is important, is attractive. Make sense? So those for whom the results are attractive, their worship would be in terms of their needs. And for that, dana, tapa, austerity, sacrifices, they'll be doing it if they feel that the needs are fulfilled, or they may not be doing it if they feel that the needs are not being fulfilled. And where the relationship is important, they go through the actions because they feel nourished just by the relationship. So if the relationship, the nourishment that they feel is about austerity, they do austerity. If the nourishment is that they need to do sacrifice, they do sacrifice. If the nourishment is that there's no need for sacrifice, they'll not be doing any sacrifice. If the relationship is demanding that, if they feel it, that is what they do. So those who are expressing needs, they're again of 2 types. They're again of 2 types, right? How is that? So if a child is interested in the cake, and the mother tells the child, go and give this chapati to your daddy first, and then you'll get the cake. So the child's interest in the cake would be due to 2 reasons. Yes? Why do I have to agree to whatever I say? I'm just giving you a proposal, all right? It could be because of 2 reasons. The first is the child is hungry for the cake. So that is distress. So now you understand? They're distressed. All right? And the second reason could be the child is greedy for the cake. Now you see, Artharthi, wanting more wealth, wanting wealth. I hope that you'll never forget this verse ever, Vifi. So, Artha, Artharthi. Everyone got this? Now there's no more categories, there's 4 of them. So we'll come to the second category, that is relationship. Now the relationship can be expressed, or the nourishment that one feels in relationship can be of 2 types. One is where within the relationship one feels happy being passive. That's possible. Passive. That, yeah, my house, it's nice. Why should I do anything more? Let it be in whatever condition it is. So that's passive. And the other is where it is active. It's my house. Just as I feel happy, the house should be happy, feel happy with me also. So what should I do for the house? No, both will take care, because if one doesn't take care, then there's no house anymore. But one is passive. There's doesn't feel the need to put in some endeavor beyond just the minimum, the basic. And the other feels that there's so much more that can be done. This relationship can be, there's so much you garnish a dish. So this can be, so much garnish can be added to this. Yeah? So many spices can be added to this relationship. Decorations. So those who are passive, they are generally only inquisitive. Okay, where are you going? Fine. So that's the inquisitive kind, the jignasu. Yes? And the other kind is active. Where are you going? Oh, there. What is there? Acha, anyone can come? So they are being active. That is the jnani. Is that okay? We understand this? All right. Let's go further. What is important here is the idea about actions with relationship to worship of Krishna. Who can perform these actions? Any living entity can perform actions. According to the Vedic scriptures, it is the moral duty of a human, or let us say, it is a constitutional duty of a human to actually be conscious about one's actions. And to help us understand this constitutional duty, we are taught about how the results can give you suffering, or they can give you happiness. So a human can do long-term planning. Other than just seasonal long-term planning, a few species being capable of that, most of the non-human species has no idea about long-term planning. Have you ever noticed that? A few species of, let's say squirrels, ants, bees, some of them, they may have short-term plans in terms of just seasonal needs. Only seasonal needs. They may live, the life may be over a few years, our solar years. However, the plans are only limited to the season in terms of how they should save food for, let us say, the winter or something like that, or for their offsprings. The bees do that so that the offsprings that come have sufficient food to grow. And they are typically the service sector. Is that what it is called as? Service sector? Yeah. For all of you are all what is that called as? IT. No, the service industry. The bees and the ants, all of their work is typically the service industry. The only reason they store food is so that the next generation can come. Most of them will work 9 to 12. No. 9 to 5. Sorry. 12 to 12, I guess. And a few of them would again wait to bring forth the next generation. That is it. That is all that they're trained to do. So basically, all of their long term planning is to make more slaves. They are slaves and they make more slaves. They help others be good slaves. That is the service industry there. The rest of the entities in other species of life are simply they are simply considering about their own, or they are simply considerate about their own selfish interests. That's it. And no long-term plan. They do not have the facility, the ability to innovate. Not much. Humans can. And humans have such diverse facilities, so many options for innovation that if they are not careful, if they do not understand um, how the ecology functions, then not only can they harm themselves, they can harm so many species of life. Therefore, for humans, the conception of the idea of happiness and suffering has been given. That if you perform certain actions and if you are doing it with certain motivations, then you could either go to heaven or to hell. You could either be doing papa or punya. So when humans are raised in that format, or when they kind of just accept that format, the worship of God is also motivated by either gain or fear, either profit or fear. Correct? How many of you have taken up to the practice of chanting Hare Krishna? Oh, nice. Now think, over the past 1 year, how many days was free from either fear or gain? Hare Krishna. The fear that if I don't do this, then I'm not following the orders, I'm not following my vow. Or the gain, if I do this, then I'll get mercy. Or I'll be a good boy, good girl. Where does this come from? It comes from our upbringing as humans. Right since the time we were children, we were brought up with this conditioning. If you behave in a particular way, good things will happen with you. If you behave in other ways, bad things will happen with you. And finally, if you're a bad person, then you'll suffer in hell. If you're a good person, then you'll have lots of happiness in heaven. Swarga, Naraka. So with that conditioning, it is typical that that is how we approach worship too. It is typical. We may have come out of, it's like Telugu people coming out into Karnataka in a Kannada society, and they feel that, oh, now we don't have norms of Telugu society. And then they come to the Kannada society and they say, hey, you guys also have similar norms like us? You also believe in the same thing? So you come out of a material outlook of how life is not simply for going after or being motivated by just gain or fear. You come out of that thinking that that is a material outlook, and you come to what is known as God consciousness. And unfortunately, the vestiges of that outlook still remain. And in such a situation, many times one is plagued by doubts. Till when will this go on? Do I always have to struggle like this? I mean, I was much better off with some other society practicing God consciousness. They just told me you can drink whatever you want and still it is all right. or you can just do it for 5 minutes and still it is all right. So Sukritina refers to people who have such motivations of either being free from distress or seeking better situations of happiness. All right? Humans are not meant to simply function on that platform. Why? Because the human intellect can at least conceive of the idea of a very benevolent and loving creator and God, can conceive of that idea, isn't it? The last time you went home, do you remember? Home means where your parents are, mom, dad. Do you remember that? And let's suppose you are at home and you get your favorite dish, the favorite food that you really like that has been cooked for you. Who do you think would have prepared that food at home? Who do you think would have done that? Typically the mother, isn't it? And then the mother comes in and says, no, actually, today, because the auntie, the neighbor, she said that she hasn't seen you for so many years. So she came in and cooked that. How do you feel about it? Ever experienced that you are anticipating that this person would be the cook and you find out somebody else is the cook? Isn't it? Yeah. So as humans, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with situations where you anticipate that this affection, this form of affection that I attribute only to one person, has in this moment come from some other person? As a human, how do you do that? So in India, typically it is like, auntie, you're also like my mother. You've seen me since childhood. So that idea of motherhood is what humans can conceive of. The idea of universal motherhood. That a mother would always, whether it is her biological child or not, would generally be affectionate towards a baby. Is that correct or not? Do you think any other species can do that? Difficult. Hence, as humans, we can conceive of the existence of God and the conception of a universal loving God. We can conceive of that. And we are not the first generation to be doing it. We are not like, that evolution. We have not come through that evolutionary stage. At least for 5 centuries, we know that evolution must, if it has happened, it has happened previous to 5 centuries, means at least 5 to 8 generations. Every generation has come up with the idea of God as a loving father, a loving mother. Right? Now, in that relationship that we have, God as a loving father, the provider, the maintainer, God being one who's always kind, always kind. In that relationship, how do you figure in the motivation of gain or fear? How do you figure in the motivation of gain or fear in relationship with a mother and the universal conception of motherhood? Hence, humans are able to do that. As humans, we are supposed to do that. As humans, we are supposed to not just do it, we are supposed to feel it. We are supposed to live it because we know it exists. As humans, we know that principle exists. Here, Srila Prabhupada says that out of these four, all of them have some motivation. They come to the Supreme Lord for devotional service under different conditions. They do not have completely pure intentions. They have some aspiration to fulfill in exchange for devotional service. Pure devotional service is without aspiration and without desire for material profit. Without aspiration and without desire for material profit. Now, since we have understood that this is what is pure devotional service, as humans being exceptionally greedy for the best to happen in our lives, we immediately want to adopt this without bringing any changes in our lifestyle. Like tomorrow, somebody tells you that if you study from this book, then in the interview, day after, you do well. They ask questions from this book. Oh my God, you're going to spend the entire night and the whole of the complete day just going through that book, aren't you? Because we want to get through the interview, we want to get that position, correct? So as humans, our intent is very clear. Now, once we get that interview done with, and they say, all right, here is a job offer, and we get into the team, after some time, the team asks, do you know this? I'm like, I think so. Do you know that? I think so. Arre Baba, but this was what you're supposed to be looked for during the interview. The agency. You know what agencies do? Everyone knows, no? What agencies do? How they build up a profile. So as soon as we read this, there is the possibility that we may just want to put up a profile without having the necessary skill sets, without having worked on the necessary skill sets. Therefore, Prabhupada here says that pure devotional service is that which is free from such motivations. So he has put it concisely. He is trying to give his message through his purports. So then why does Krishna speak about worship? Because if motivations will hinder our relationship with Krishna due to the needs of profit or the fear that we have, if they are going to be colored by that, if they are going to be affected by that, then why does Krishna speak about worship? Because the nature of God is always to give. Hence, somebody who always likes to give, they know the only way what they have given can be received if they do not look at their defects, but they look at what are the qualifications to receive. If I want to give you something, if I say, hey, you don't have this, therefore I'm giving you, maybe you'll take it. But if I tell you, you are perfectly qualified to use this, you're the best person to use this, I'm motivating you to use it. Not only will you receive it, but I'm motivating you to use it. I am actually trying to say that you can do it. On the other hand, if I tell you you don't have it and therefore I'm giving to you, I'm trying to make you dependent on me. And that is not really helpful. A child that always gets its needs fulfilled because the parent sees that it does not have it, does not grow up to be a contributing member of society, generally speaking. But a child who's encouraged to take on responsibility and again, the idea is reinforced that you can do it because I am confident. I trust that you have the capabilities to do it. Show it, son. Do it. That child grows up to be a wonderful member of society through his or her contributions. Okay. So Krishna always gives. And therefore, wherever he sees somebody having the qualification to worship him, he calls him Sukritina. He doesn't see the defects, that what is the reason for which they are worshipping him. He sees the qualifications that they have. This, he sees their ability to worship him. And those who do not consciously, who reserve their ability to serve Krishna, they hold back on their ability to serve Krishna. They hold back their ability to worship him consciously. Krishna says they're dushkritina. Dushkritina means they are unfortunate people. Sukritina means fortunate people. Okay, I'll tell you a story. First, let me explain this four. So, artha. What is artha? Distressed. Then there is artharthi. What is artharthi? Desire for some gains. Artha, arthi. Artha means valuable. Anything that is valuable. Arthi means one who desires to have that. So artharthi. Okay. Jnani and Jignasu. First, Krishna says artha, Jignasu. Third is artharthi. Fourth is Jnani or Jnani. According to how we were going through our discussion, we categorized artha and artharthi into the group of those who do it for some profit gain, and we categorized Jignasu and Jnani as those who do it for relationship. So why has Krishna kind of juggled up? He has first said artha, then he has said artharthi, then he has said Jignasu, then artharthi, and then Jnani. Most of the commentators, most of them, in fact, all of them, if I'm not wrong, they categorize them as the distressed, the one who's looking for profit, then the third is the inquisitive, and the fourth is the seeker. So that is how they have categorized it. So how is it that Krishna brings Jignasu in between artha and artharthi? So it says amongst the Jignasu and the Jnani, the difference is one is passive and the other is active. Now, if I have to be introduced to relationships, any kind of relationship, let's say arranged marriage. I have no idea about it. Maybe some of you have. If you don't have, okay, love marriage. Marriage, let us say marriage, and let us take the example of arranged marriage. How does a relationship slowly develop? How does it develop? Any relationship, even if it is love marriage, the first time you kind of get introduced to each other, a boy and a girl, all right? Let's say college, at workplace. So till the time you get introduced to each other, you may be very, very aggressive. Aggressive in the sense, you make the moves, correct? Arranged marriage is, the parents make the moves. You're kind of, I'm already, 24 years and 30 days, 32 days. Are you going to get me married or not? So then that is the only way you can be aggressive with the parents. But Parents make the move, right? Now, once the relationship has been established, they've decided, two families have decided that boy and the girl, they'll come together. Or two people at college or at the workplace or somewhere else, somehow or the other, they decide that they want to be a couple now. After that, what happens? For the relationship to develop, typically, one has to be a little passive, one has to be a little accepting, try to understand, see what is healthy, helpful for the relationship. And once one gets to know, then one can be a little more active. Hey, you remembered my birthday? So that is actively remembering it, and after some time, you know what happens. Now, how could you forget it? Oh, I did not. How could I forget? Today is our anniversary, right? And they're like, no, today is our child's birthday. And after a few years of marriage, that could happen. But anyways, in the beginning, relationship. If in the relationship you are very active, there are chances of misunderstanding. Similarly, when a person is motivated to worship because of either gains or because one is in distress, you introduce them to the idea of worship in relationship. What is the first thing that would be helpful for them? The passive kind or the active kind? Passive kind. You encourage them to be inquisitive. So for an artha person, you ask them, in suffering you're worshipping God. Whenever things were good, what about them? So they become inquisitive. Right? And an artharthi, someone is greedy, so worships Krishna. I have a Camry, can I have a Tesla now? Is that too big a jump?
Everything is costly now.
Even a Camry is costly? Really? How much is it cost? Tesla is much cheaper than a Camry? Really?
The Tesla is everything price of the Tesla is cheap.
No, really. Otherwise, I cannot give these examples anymore. So you have to educate me.
It used to be, I think, 4 Camry equal to 1 Tesla, not 2 Camry equal to 1.
So it's still cheaper, right? Like, tomorrow, right now I'm being like, okay, done with the class. Let me look at the stocks. Let's invest there. It's a growing market. Tesla is coming down. Anyways, the artharthi. Yeah, Krishna, I bought the stocks. Please let it grow. And I promise 10% for you, I'll donate in the temple. Artharthi, right? Now you want to introduce this artharthi person to being interested just about the relationship. What would you want to do? Make that person inquisitive. If you make that person a seeker, he's like, yeah, next birth, definitely. One day I'll try to come. So the step for an artha person would be jignasu. The step for an artharthi would be jignasu. See how Krishna has sandwiched it between the two. Artha, jignasu, artharthi. And then for all three, what is the conclusion? Jnani. So it's interesting. I'm not sure whether Krishna really thought of it. Most probably Krishna is Krishna. He must have thought of it definitely. Somebody cracked this code. And that is one of our commentators, Baldev Vidyabhushan. He cracked this code. All right. And I'm simply cut paste. I have access to the internet. I'm not smart enough. I've not read Baldev Vidyabhushan so much. But I have access to data, and therefore I'm trying to be over smart here. But all of you have the opportunity to, if you are as hardworking as I am. All right. Okay. So artha, we are talking about distress, and we are talking about gain, artharthi. So typically in life, what does happen? What are the situations in life that one has to go through when we think about um, distress and when we think about gain? Anyone? Suffering. One is suffering, right? That is in relationship to distress. What else? In relationship to gain. Happiness. Correct.
Yeah.
Now we are going to analyze how one looks at happiness. What are the ways that one looks at happiness? One is needs and better needs. If you have our needs in sufficient quantities, we are happy, right? However, if we have our needs but we feel that we need more, what do? Pray to Krishna.
You have to turn off aeroplane mode.
Correct? Is that Siri or is that Google? Siri? Siri. How many of us are used to asking Siri to take notes for us? Reminders for the next day, what is it called as? To-do list. How many of you do that? Use Siri sometimes or the other way? To-do list? Nobody does that. My God. So where do you have your to-do list? Here? I mean, you have Siri, use her. Do you have to-do list? Like next month, these are the things that I need to get. Groceries. Siri, remind me when I go to the Indian market. Indian store. Yeah. Or, if you have appointments, you kind of put it up somewhere. If you have a couple of appointments, like you have to go to the dentist, you also have to get your something to do with your SSN, I guess, or your bank. Do you think you're going to have all of that just in your head? Email reminder, something like that. You have? Correct? Right. You Siri. You paid for it, right? So when look at it carefully. How much of it is upgrade? That is what is artharthi. So in your life, you find situations where, okay, apartment from an apartment, a house from a house, maybe investment home. So you're looking towards that. And, obviously, whenever you have a new house, you'd want devotees to come and you'd say, please pray, we can use this house for Krishna's service. Then you have an investment home, you're like, by Krishna's grace, please come and bless us. Happens? Does it happen? Or it happens. Some of you may already have retirement plans, 401k, maybe a house somewhere back home in India, or maybe you're planning that you'll move to a warmer place. This is already a warm place, but some place which is a little more, maybe closer to a temple, maybe far away from the temple, which it happens. Retirement plans. Sometimes your retirement plans also beyond life. When I go to Swargaloka, there I should have so many arrangements, Maybe I should go with Indra, or maybe I should go with Chandra. Because if I go with Indra, then I have the dishes that Indra eats. I go to Chandra, I have along with that Soma drinks. So those people who have an idea of that, this is the idea of artharthi. So that is happiness. Happiness is always the way one looks at happiness and wanting to upgrade one's happiness as an artharthi is that right now I have so much, Krishna, please bless me that over a period of I have so much, and then I have so much, and then maybe afterlife I have that much. That is Artharthi. What about the Artha? Those who are suffering. Those who are suffering, the sufferings come basically in three ways. The first is disaster. Some disaster. Power outage. Nothing you can do. Demigods decided. You'll have a power outage and you hadn't saved your work. Or maybe your hard drive crashed. They didn't go to the cloud. If it went to the cloud, Elon Musk says cloud is down. Or Google says, we are going to charge you a little more. And you're like, for a one day, you are feeling miserable that everything's becoming expensive now. So that is called as Adhidaivik. Things that are really beyond your control or control of humans. There's some natural calamities. Then the second kind is somebody who's right next to you. It could be just another living entity. And you're suffering from that. My dear Lord, please, there are so many cockroaches now. They're even on the altar. Please give us a home free from cockroaches, mosquitoes. Please let me have another counselor, another mentor. Krishna, I pray unto you. So this is Adhibhautik. And there is Adhyatmik. Adhyatmik is really very interesting. What is Adhyatmik? Self-injury. You trouble yourself by being anxious. You trouble yourself by just wanting to be unnecessary austere. Everyone is doing Nirkadashi, I should also do. And then you suffer from so much acidity. And people are like, Prabhuji, you should not have done. No, I'm so sinful. If I don't do it, who will do? So you try to do self-harm like that. Not that you should not do Nirkadashi Ekadashi. But slowly, don't one day, just drop a bomb on yourself. The whole community is doing. Today, I'll also fast 24 hours. Like the body is like, where from do you get these ideas? At least let me prepare myself. Or I don't think so. My friends like me so much. Yesterday, no one talked to me. No, they will never ever consider that maybe all of them were doing Mauna Vrat. That may not be the consideration. No one talked to me. Or if they're talking to everyone else, but they're ignoring me. It's as if in the entire world, everyone else is dead. Only 14 people are existing. Those who are talking to each other, the 13 there, and I. They don't talk to me anymore. I feel so left out. So this kind of self-harm one does. There are so many ways. I'm just trying to give examples like that, I went in the beginning, every time, if I would come late, they would keep a plate of prasad for me. Nowadays, they don't even care if I'm there or not. I mean, it's something that should be looked into, but not that you have to be anxious about it and start feeling hopeless and like, should I leave this community, go to some other place? So self-harm. And the problem with self-harm is, suffering is, if you pray to Krishna, you come out of that suffering, the mind now knows that it can subjugate you anytime. The mind now knows that if it subjugates you, you'll go to Krishna, you'll feel happy, and then again the mind can bring you down. Because that is how the mind is. The mind needs attention. We have trained the mind to always make it seek our attention. So the mind knows that. So these kind of sufferings are called as artha. All right? And to come out of such sufferings, adidevik, adhyatmik, adibhautik, one can pray to Krishna. one may pray to Krishna. And typically people do. People do. I lost my job, Krishna. Can I have it back? Something. Otherwise, I mean, we feel so hopeless in such situations because most probably that is the only skill set we have. That we never realize that even if everything else fails us, we can work as daily wage laborers. However, our ego may not allow that. But if everything else fails us, this body still, we have maintained this body. This body will not fail us for at least some time. So why should one feel so distressed? But then it happens. So you come to Krishna, somehow the other, most of the time Krishna reciprocates because he'll always reciprocate. Sometimes when there is no reciprocation, it is because we miss out on the opportunity of reciprocation. It is like we are supposed to knock on door number 1, we go and knock on door number 2. And Krishna is like, hey, door number 2 is where you will be unhappy. Why are you knocking there? I think Krishna is there in that unhappiness. So those are the two ways that suffering and the desire for gain is reciprocated by Krishna when we worship Krishna. Krishna tries to help us out. Now, when that is happening, according to Prabhupada, if we have the association of devotees, people who are sane, now even amongst devotees, there are sane people and there are those who are trying to be sane. So you should look out for those who are already sane, because the others may be just like you or me, trying to be sane. Make sense? So amongst devotees, those who are already, safe and those who are trying to save themselves from drowning. Now, if you catch hold of somebody that is trying to save oneself from drowning, then you also drown. So better take help from somebody who's safe on the shore. Okay? So Prabhupada says when we take the association of such safe people, the devotees, they are the ones who would somehow or the other bring in the idea. They're like, when you had a car and now you have a Tesla and you're worshipping Krishna, isn't it? Have you ever thought what Krishna really wants you to do? And they're like, I never thought about that. I thought Krishna wants me to have a Tesla. So they will bring in the idea of, have you ever thought about what Krishna really wants? That is what a devotee does. Or if you're in too much in distress and you pray to Krishna, Krishna, if I don't have a job, then I'm completely gone. I don't think so I can survive when you get a job. And if you are with a devotee say, you come to the devotee and say, Krishna is listening to my prayer. I'm so convinced that Krishna is there. And the devotee would say, when you are suffering, did somebody take away your capacity to breathe? Did somebody take away your capacity to think? Who do you think was giving you all of that? Have you ever thought about it? And that is when you become thoughtful. You start inquiring. You become inquisitive. So if one is worshipping Krishna because either one is distressed or one is seeking more gains, more profit, if one comes in touch with a devotee, then a devotee introduces one to the concept of, in a relationship, you have to consider the existence of the other person too. And what could be the other person's existence? How could it be? They introduce you to the idea of Krishna as a person. Krishna is someone who lives. He's not just an ATM machine. Sorry. Yeah, he's not just like at a mountain. You go, mountain, help me. And the mountain says, yeah, enter my cave. He's not just an inanimate object like that. He's not just a reservoir of simply fulfilling all of your desires. Krishna is also a person. So devotee introduces that concept. Yes. So that is why Srila Prabhupada says one should be in touch with the devotee. Now we come to a jignasu. and a Jnani. Srila Prabhupada says that a Jignasu is somebody who's inquisitive and a Jnani is somebody who's a seeker, who wants to know the absolute truth. And Jignasu is somebody who wants to inquire about the absolute truth. So he makes a distinction and he says that these are also motivations. And if they also come in contact with a pure devotee, then they will also understand what is relationship without such motivations. Okay. The only motivation in pure relationship is how can I serve the other? Just as Krishna is constantly serving us, he's giving us whatever we need. Then we also kind of wonder what can we offer to Krishna back. So that is the relationship which is pure. So that is how Srila Prabhupada puts it. Other commentators, they kind of also hint that a Jignasu is somebody who's inquiring about the absolute truth because the Jignasu has interest in the absolute truth. And a Jnani is somebody who has developed that interest sufficiently. Okay? So Jignasu is somebody who would inquire about the various ways of connecting to Krishna. Is it through fruitive activities? Is it through knowledge? Is it through meditation? And a Jnani is someone who has decided which way to connect with Krishna, either through fruitive activities. Mostly it is through either perfected knowledge and meditation. Mostly that is what a Jnani does, because a Jnani realizes that ultimately it is meditation and knowledge. Okay. So when a Jnani does such meditation and knowledge, then a Jnani understands Krishna's existence as one's friend, one's companion, one's master. And when a Jigyasu makes inquiry about how to connect with Krishna through fruitive activities, then that Jigyasu becomes someone who starts worshipping Krishna either for relief from material distress or for getting more gains. And the Jigyasu, and then coming in contact with another devotee comes to the platform of becoming a Jnani. The Jigyasu is not the same as the Sukritina there. Because the Jigyasu is understanding various ways, if the Jigyasu tries out the ways of wanting to do it through fruitive results from there. If wanting to do it through speculative knowledge, then he's a Jnani. If he wants to do it through meditation, then he's again a Jnani. So that is one step, another step. And from a Jnani, if a Jigyasu comes in contact with a devotee, then the devotee would be asking questions. That now you've understood, you're wanting to connect with Krishna. What can satisfy you the most? Which seems to be the best feasible way to connect with Krishna? Understanding the pros and cons of each process. So that a devotee saves the Jignasu from trying out each process, or saves time of that practitioner. Yes.
So devotee is already a Jnani.
Devotee is everything. I'll explain how. Okay. He's also a fruitive worker, also a Jnani, also a meditative person. It's just what Krishna wants him to do. For example, a devotee feels that, oh, today I should offer kheer to Krishna. I don't have anything. So devotee goes to a shopkeeper, can I have some? So he becomes a fruitive worker. Can you give me something? And they ask him, why? I want to make kheer for Krishna. So devotee, according to how the devotee is motivated in the relationship with Krishna, it is for Krishna. Okay, it's not just again. All of that are just tools that a devotee already has and uses it whenever it is needed. It is not tools on which the devotee is dependent in one's relationship with Krishna. Is that okay? So I've already explained it. So Gyani and Jignasu. So Krishna says all of these are Sukritina. Yes? Janaha, Sukritina, Arjuna. We explained Jana. Jana means as humans, we're supposed to be innovative. We're supposed to think about subtle subject matters. So Jana Sukrituna Arjuna, Artho Jigyasu Arthathi, Gyanicha Bharatarshava. Bharatarshava is just, it is his affection towards Arjun. From scriptures, we'll try to see if there are some examples that fit in each category. And Artha. Artha is somebody in distress. How many of you have heard about Gajendra? What happened to Gajendra?
Crocodile captured his leg.
Yeah, a crocodile was seriously troubling him. He saw that everyone else had deserted him. Even his strength was failing him. Remembering from his past life, he offered prayers to the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord responded. So that is an example of distressed. Correct? Now let us come to Artharthi. Dhruva. Have you heard of Dhruva? The story of Dhruva Maharaj. What is the story?
He sat in the lap of.
So somehow or the other he felt that he was not getting his whatever was due to him. So he asked his mother, how can I get that? His mother told him, go and worship Narayan in the forest. So he goes to worship Narayan in the forest. Finally, Krishna reveals himself. So what had he gone to do? To worship Krishna for what? To get some gain. So that is an example of Artharthi. Now we come to Jignasu. Do we know the story of Shukdev Goswami or the four Kumaras? Actually, Jignasu is somebody who's inquisitive. So I'm sorry. This does not exactly fit into it because these people are already in knowledge. A Jignasu is not somebody who's in knowledge, but is seeking knowledge, right? Is inquisitive. The fourth is a seeker, the one who is wanting to know understand the absolute truth. So already has knowledge of the absolute truth. So the third is, this is the example of Gyani, Shukdev Goswami and four Kumaras. What is the story of Shukdev Goswami? So he was quite literate since his time in the womb. So he wouldn't come out of the womb. So his father Vyasadeva was concerned. He said, why are you not coming out of the womb? He says, there's Maya outside. And I've seen that as soon as somebody comes outside of the womb, they say happy birthday and then he's lost in Maya. So then they celebrate his birthday every year, Hare Krishna to you, Hare Krishna. And he starts believing that he's the Hare Krishna devotee. So I don't want to be in that Maya. Why are you laughing? So Vyasadeva, he somehow or the other asks Krishna to help. Krishna comes and convinces him. So he takes his birth. Then he simply walks away. He says, I'm not even joining the Brahmacharya ashram anywhere. I'm going to the Himalayas. I don't want to interact with any entity because I know that they will invoke within me feelings of material emotions. Somebody say, oh, you look so young. Somebody say, you're the son of Vyasadeva? Wow. He's like, so all these emotions that arise, I'm the son of Vyasadeva, I'm young, I don't want any of that. So he goes. Then somebody there is chanting the glories of Krishna. He becomes attracted. Who's this Krishna? I want to know this Krishna. So he says, all right, if you want to know Krishna, then go to Vyasadeva. He knows a lot about Krishna. He says, oh. He says, Vyasadeva? The same Vyasadeva? He says, yes. Okay. So now I'll go back to Vyasadeva who knows about Krishna, not to Vyasadeva who's my father. I'll go back to Vyasadeva who knows about Krishna. So that is how he goes back and he hears about Krishna and then he becomes completely engrossed in remembering Krishna. So that is Gyani, Shukdev Goswami. The fourth is Muchukunda. You know about Muchukunda? So Muchukunda was a very, very powerful king. He was so powerful that the demigods were not able to counteract the Asuras. The Devas were not able to counteract the Asuras. So they requested him, can you be our commander in chief? So he became the commander in chief. for such a long time. They really would fight, and then the fight would stop, then again the fight would start, and it would stop. It went on and on and on. Finally, they got the son of Mahadev as the commander in chief. Finally, Skanda, Kartikeya. So now they said, now if you want, you can go back to your family. Then somebody informed me there's no family. You know, uh, so many generations have passed that now your family tree is completely gone. Nothing is available. So what do you want as a boon? So he asked for sleep. Let me have undisturbed sleep. Anyone who disturbs my sleep, let him be burned to ashes. No, he was really scared that Indra may come again. Please, can you come? So now Indra knows that if I go there, he opens his eyes, I'm going to be burned to ashes. So Indra will not trouble him anymore. So he just wanted to take rest away from all of this. So he's taking rest. Krishna brings in Kalyavan there. So opens his eyes, Kalyavan is burned to ashes. Then he looks around. Like after it is done, he's like, who are you? I think you are someone special. I can see that you have this beautiful divine form. You appear to be the creator himself. And Krishna educates him, I am known by many names, I have many births. He educates him and finally says, actually, you've been my devotee since long. And now you just consider meditating on me, chanting my names. This is your final birth. So now you just do that. So finally, Muchukunda does that. He takes Krishna's leave and he goes. So he is the inquisitive person. Who are you? He doesn't know, but he's attracted. He wants to know. So that is the Jignasu. Okay. So to conclude, Srila Prabhupada says, all of these people are very good. Finally, all of them have to come to the platform of Jnani, and a Jnani is somebody who knows Krishna. Either a Jnani is a pure devotee of the Lord, or the Jnani is somebody who, with a pure devotee of the Lord, understands Krishna as one's master or one's friend or one's companion, so on and so forth. So we'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Any questions?
So I have just a basic question. In the case of Artharthi and Artha, the case of Artharthi and Artha, you have given the example of Dhruva Maharaj and Gajendra. So Artharthi seems to be a special case of Artha because he is distressed in his mind. So is that correct, or it's completely a different?
From that point of view, even a Jignasu is somebody who is a little distressed and therefore wants to know. You only want to know because there's something lacking. So distress means that which is lacking. The difference is an Artha is suffering because of not having something. Artharthi is someone who is distressed because wants something more than what one has. So already one has something more than what one has. So an Artha would be a person, if we consider in terms of past life situations, prarabdha, then an Artha is someone that has a past life reaction a little more worse than an Artharthi. And therefore, that is a categorization. An Artharthi is somebody whose past life would be a little more worse than a Jignasu. Okay. Any other question or comments? Yes.
Is there a chance that is there a chance that someone is praying but does not necessarily belong in any of the 4 categories that you just mentioned?
The possibility could be considered if we understand the motivation. So is there any motivation that we can think of that could lead to a person to pray in an additional category?
Something more like a duty.
Pray to Krishna more as of a duty?
Just pray, like everybody prays, I also pray. I've been told to pray to Krishna, I just keep on praying. For example, we tell the kids to chant, they don't have any motivation. They just chant because we told them to chant. They don't have any.
So is that a separate category?
Just giving example, I don't know.
No, I'm not even that.
No, I'm just asking.
Like, there's no. It could be inquisitive. That's what I'm thinking in my mind. It could be inquisitive, but not necessarily that that's the feeling that I'm having while I'm chanting. So I don't know if it's necessarily a category or that's what I'm thinking.
Well, we are trying to understand what Krishna means by explaining here about the 4 classes, 4 types, right? And he says that these are the 4 types that worship me. So we are wondering if there is any other motivation which would make a person worship Krishna.
So is there?
I'm asking you because you are asking if there's any other category.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm wondering if there could be.
It depends, because here Krishna is describing these 4 categories according to a certain perspective. So that is, let us say, this is Krishna's school of thought, which he is expressing to Arjuna. There's quite a possibility that Krishna's school of thought, when he's teaching Uddhava in Uddhav Gita, could have a slightly different categorization. And when that categorization comes up, we'll have to see what are the motivations that are being explained there. It is quite possible. And then it will be helpful that we don't try and combine the two. Because perspectives it is being spoken in context. So there's some context in which Krishna is speaking here. So what we can do is we can take both, explain the context of both, and give the categorization accordingly.
So me asking this question, again, I'm thinking it's inquisitive.
Well, this is how the acharyas, the commentators, they explain that typically these are the ways that people express themselves. And in the beginning, when I described that there are 2 ways why people would want to perform an action. One is depending, they are concerned about the result, and the second is relationship. Other than that, if there's any other factor, it doesn't, right now we are not able to figure it out. No, we could try and figure it out later on, but right now we're not able to figure that out. Now, of the 2, again, one is when one is lacking something, and one when is wanting something more. So when one is lacking, it is artha, and wanting something more is artharthi. And relationship is passive active. Yeah.
As you were mentioning about this situation, where I just realized Arjuna is in all the 4 categories actually. At that point.
Yeah, it's interesting. Actually, I just gave one. There are multiple examples. Just as I said, Sukhdev Goswami and 4 Kumaras. There could be a few others also. Uddhava was also in a similar situation because Krishna gave philosophical knowledge to Uddhava. At the same time, he was also pure devotee. So, yeah.
So
Now, tomorrow onwards, we don't have to categorize ourselves into any, because we are kind of, in Kali Yuga, nothing is straight.
the box.
It's very complex. It's like today, previously, people are very particular. Dosa, only this chutney, and that sabji, bhaji, pesaretto, only that, like that upma. Today is like mix everything. Any masala that is called a sambar masala goes in anything. My great grand Radha Vallabh here would have a shock. The way people he's like, you want to harm yourself? Why do you? Why do you feel so happy about it? So this is Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga is like whatever works. If I feel happy, it's good. My tongue feels happy, I'm good. My ears feel happy, I'm good. Yeah, so today I can be a Jigyasu. Day after tomorrow I can be an Artharthi. In between I decide to be a Dushkritina. I can have all flavors. Tenacity. It's like today I chant nicely, tomorrow I'm not sure if I can do it. Day after tomorrow I'm not even sure if I can consider chanting, because the past 7 days I know how it went. So it's just we are trying to understand Krishna, what he's explaining to Arjuna. Yeah. So we'll stop. Yeah. So about your praying, just praying out of duty.
Or out of force.
That is for the kids. That is distress.
We are giving distress.
Kids are getting distressed.
They don't worship Krishna because of distress.
So again, is it because of a relationship or is it because we are looking at fruits? The goal, what is it? So out of duty, do we want to please someone? So pleasing is because we want to get something from them, or is it because the relationship we are happy that this is what the relationship is? Now is that active or passive?
So this is not pleasing Krishna. This is pleasing somebody else.
Bhajantema. Oh, thank you. I missed out on that point, but let it be. There's something else. You brought it up. Very briefly. So when one wants to worship, then there are 3 ways one worships. One is worship. Again, it is either looking at the goal or a relationship. 3 ways. The first is where we worship Krishna, or we do the worship, and whenever needed, we may use other tools. So Krishna is predominant, and whenever needed, if it is needed in that relationship, then we may want to achieve a particular goal. Is it all right? So active relationship, as I give the example of if Krishna says, like he told Sanatana Goswami, what is this every day only salt? No, every day just dry bati, at least a little salt. So if Krishna says something like that, then you may kind of, can somebody give me salt? Arey Baba, what do you want salt for? You never eat salt. No, Krishna is asking. So you go out and do something fruitive. Okay? So that is the first category. And the second category is where one is worshipping Krishna. The fruits are desirous for us. Today I want to eat gulab jamun, so I'm going to offer gulab jamun to Krishna. Very relatable, isn't it? Not gulab jamun, but whatever else. Okay. The third is, so that is second where worship of Krishna is there, but what is dominating is our fruitive intent. Yes. The third is we worship Krishna, we have fruitive intent. For fruitive intent, we go to someone else, not to Krishna. You're like, I don't want to disturb Krishna. I'll get my fruitive intent, satisfied through what is it? Baskin Robbins. Vegan ice cream. So there's still worship of Krishna, there's still fruitive intent, but rather than make something for Krishna, we are like, let it get, and because I'm not sure if I can offer it to Krishna, so I'll just offer it to somebody like Krishna within my heart. Or somebody may just go to some other demigods also. 3 categories. Is that okay?
So my question is slightly different. So in the case of a person who is going to Krishna because of forced by parents or some other king, when they go and invade a country and they force convert other people, they go to God. Right? They go to God in What category?
Who goes to God?
The people who are forced.
Invaders. The one who
Invaded,
invaded.
or the kids who are forced by the parents.
Okay.
So, bro, when kids are worshipping Krishna, but out of forced by the parents, so the question is, what is that kind of
So that
worship?
other person being disturbed.
Can you give me some example? Anyone can help me out with this, where someone else is brought to God by another person.
So I asked my child to
No, child, I understand. I'm asking of examples from history, like some saint brought some other person to God.
Brigari. Narada Muni brought Brigari to.
He didn't do distress.
No, to giving distress is not brought. Migari had to work, no?
Yeah.
Without his efforts, I'm saying. He in a way, king invades and forces him to convert. Do they put in that effort, or they're not putting in effort? Those who got invaded, do they put in effort or they don't put effort?
They put effort
So if
just
they
to
put-
tolerate the invader,
So again, then basic two categories.
which is
Either they're doing it for the goal, for some result, or relationship.
In this case, pleasing the invader.
pleasing the father is the goal, you are saying.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying any action will be performed in these two ways,
And that is
or
again
with these two reasons.
Artharthi is the
One of these two reasons. Artharthi is one of the goal-oriented approaches. Similarly with the child, will they be putting in the effort? And how will they be putting in the effort?
slightly little different. Sorry, I'm just extending the conversation. There, Artharthi is I am seeking wealth from God
It's not just wealth,
or gain from God.
because when we think of wealth, we kind of look at wealth only in terms of money.
Yes.
Wealth is also property. Wealth is also possessions of others' lives.
Any material gain.
Like we say, what is it called as? Pashudhan. Have you heard of Pashudhan? Animal wealth. Wealth in terms of how many horses you have, how many mules you have. So wealth, as being understood here, is in that context.
Yes.
Huge variety. Wealth is also in terms of your personality. What kind of qualities do you possess? Is that helpful?
I can offline.
Okay, offline. So we stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
His case Rohinipriya Prabhu ki
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.